I wanted to install some lights on my remote-controlled model plane. As the days are growing shorter and shorter, it is a good idea if I want to go for a fly on a weeknight after work. I also wanted to expand my knowledge for electronics a little further, as I am currently going through an electronics course. This project, like most projects in general, didn't miss out on its challenges and setbacks.
Hopefully nothing bad happens. Yep, something bad's happened.
But let's begin at the beginning.
So in my teenage years, I used to have a hobby where I built and flew remote-controlled model airplanes. It was a really nice hobby that lasted a bunch of years, and it influenced my decision to study civil aviation at university. And subsequently, this led me to getting a pilot's license. Many years have passed since then, and my interest in aviation has cooled down over that period. But it has now returned. It initially returned with my wife getting me a glider flight, a trial glider flight here in Poland. It was about a year ago. And now this year, for our wedding anniversary, she got me a small model plane Cessna, this thing here. This small gift had lit a fire under the interest of aviation once again, and it influenced me to build a much bigger plane that could do much more, because this little thing is great and it's amazing, but it's designed for a very steady flight. It's just controlled by the two propellers here, and no elevator or rudder control here. So it's very naturally stable. It can fly on its own essentially. However, I wanted to build something more, so I built a plane which I've built in the past before, called the Acrobat. And the Acrobat is a more of an aerobatic plane, and it's a much more powerful plane. I tried my hardest to build this plane as quickly as possible before the winter comes, but that wasn't enough. The days are growing shorter now, daylight saving time is over, and there is simply not enough time to go and fly this thing after work. After it gets dark at 4:30, 4 o'clock, and the days will only keep getting shorter. Of course, there are weekends, but the problem with relying on only weekends to go flying is that, especially in autumn, the weather is very unpredictable. You can have a lot of windy days, you can have a lot of rainy days, and so it's difficult to get a day where you can really go flying. And I might have just found a solution for that. Let me show you. I had a lot of these LED strips left over from work where I would install them in kitchens, for example. They are short length, most of them vary in color temperature, and soldering them together, joining them together in the same kitchen would be a big no-no, as the colors would clash. On a remote controlled foam plane, the more the merrier. It doesn't matter. I actually want it to be as colorful as possible. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is installing an LED strip where the ailerons join the wing. And I've researched that this is the best method to illuminate the fuselage, the parts, rather than shining the lights outwards, which doesn't do a lot when it is dark.
I initially jumped into the idea of installing the strips in the spot where the ailerons meet the trailing edge of the wing, which is why you see me disassembling the ailerons. Besides, the first set of ailerons wasn't very straight anymore, so they needed to go. After sticking the LED strip to the trailing edge, I realized that it wasn't a very good solution, due to the fact that the strip width is wider than the width of the aileron and the trailing edge, and it also made an uneven surface, so it had to go. Instead, I went with something less graceful and definitely less aerodynamic. and my solution was to stick an LED strip to the surface of the wing with the lights facing down. I ran the wiring from the wings to a battery through the same PEX tube through which the servo wiring is routed. Furthermore, I created these winglets which could be illuminated by the lights and make the wingtips really visible. For a secondary function, I hope that this will make the plane even more stable during aerobatic maneuvers. The lighting, which is stuck to the wing, had a connector soldered to it for quick disassembly of the wing. A strip of light was finally installed inside the rear section of the fuselage, and a small section was then routed outside of the fuselage to light the empennage. My battery pack is a 4-cell 15-volt lipo, which makes the voltage too high to power the 12-volt LED lighting. To solve this problem, I installed a voltage step-down between the battery and the lights. To set the output voltage, you simply turn a screwdriver and set the required voltage. I initially wanted to make my own voltage step down, however I didn't want to experiment too much and I found something cheap and available on the market. Finally, some ailerons were cut out of a piece of new foam. Some adjustments were made to make everything work, and the plane was ready for initial testing. On the first day of testing, I didn't want to push it too late as I wanted to fly in good visibility to test the system and adjust the new control surfaces. Indeed, the plane needed some adjustments. Also, I thought I could do with a few more lights, so I added them before the next flight day. On the second day of testing, it was indeed a little darker, plus the snow you saw earlier had melted. The testing went mostly smoothly. The plane was a lot more controllable than on the first day, and I was having a lot of fun flying circles around my stationary cameras. Until the motor decided it wanted to separate from the rest of the plane. There it is! Oh my goodness! So I was just having an enjoyable time flying this plane at like perfect dark time to film this thing, and when all of a sudden my electric motor decided to separate from the rest of the fuselage, and yeah, it took off. Luckily I had control of the plane still, nothing else seemed to have been going wrong, so I landed the plane safely. And I found the motor, which I could observe just flying down from the sky, and I can piece it all back together hopefully and keep flying. So I've glued the motor back on and I'm gonna delicately fly it a little bit more. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Yep, something bad's happened. This time I think I simply jinxed myself and was a little nervous after the initial crash when the motor separated from the airplane, and my worry that it would happen again. And I launched the plane a little carelessly without enough power on the throttle stick. The plane started heading towards the fence. I overcorrected by turning the plane too far, and by that time it was too close to the ground and too close to the fence. Everything happened so fast. The final inspection of the plane showed some fuselage damage, nothing which can't be repaired. The airframe will keep flying in the future, essentially. I had a great deal of fun with this project. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I am currently going through an electronics course, and I wanted to do a project like this to keep my interests high. I encourage you to do the same. When you are learning something, find a way in which you can stay interested. Find something that interests you in that topic and go down that rabbit hole in order to keep your interests high, to keep motivation high to learn, and to make what you're learning about relatable. Before starting to learn about electronics, I don't think I would have taken up the project of stepping down voltage from 15 volts, which is what the battery was at, to 12 volts, which is what the LED circuit needs to be at. As simple as it may sound, just buying a device that does it by itself, but I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't even have known what the name for that device is. This project had some hiccups, the major one being the crash at the end. But like I said, it's an easy fix, and I had fun even after crashing it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. It is time to end. I hope to see you in the next project. I really welcome your feedback on this video, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.